welcome to another episode of A Beautiful Subconscious. I'm Shel Marie, and I know that I batch record my episodes, but currently in this time and space right now, school is back. For our kids down here in Perth, Australia, school has started back up, and it is so great to get that routine back again. I love a good routine where things are a little bit more structured. Simultaneously, when holidays do come around, I'm like, firstly, how the heck are we here already? It can't be 10 weeks already, but time does fly at the speed of light, it seems, these days. But then also I do like to have them around, and I do like to kind of chill out on the schedule a little bit. But it just takes a second to be able to switch from one to the other. But I feel like that's the modern day life, whether you're female or male. But I'm speaking to the ladies, like, especially mums. That's what life is like. You're flipping from that one role to then the next role to then the next role to then that hat back again, and then putting it on simultaneously, splitting it between seconds. It's a lot. It's a juggle and a half. So to get back whilst they're at school and to have this space, my office, and where I record these podcast episodes and do my kinesiology sessions out from, it is nice just to have me, and I can put this hat on completely and not half have a hat waiting like in arm's reach to put on should my name get called out. Who can relate? Preach, right? So today's episode, it may be it may kind of infuse within that or not. But what I'm talking about today is by not living in congruency to what's aligned for us, we are exhausting ourselves. I'm going to say that again. We are exhausted from not living in congruency to what's aligned for us. So there is a bunch to unpack for this topic right now. It's like, okay, firstly, how do we know what's aligned for us? Why would we want to live out of alignment? Like, is that really why I'm exhausted? We've just discussed that we wear so many hats in microseconds. So that's why I'm freaking exhausted. I'm juggling my life, being a parent, trying to keep healthy, trying to be present, trying to do some self-work, but then also trying to rest. And there's so many demands of this modern day living if we subscribe to it. And that's why I'm freaking exhausted, not because I'm living out of alignment. And whilst that is true, there is absolute truth to that. Yes, we are jam-packing so much more because we're expecting so much more from ourselves, because we're not being true to who we are and what's aligned for us, because we haven't given ourselves the space to know what that is. We are exhausted. We are exhausted from doing the shit that we don't want to do, but we're doing it because we feel like we should. And so that's what we're going to unpack today. We're going to unpack why we'd be doing that and how can we just bring some more bandwidth into our lives. So firstly, how do you know that you're in alignment? So for me, alignment is having what we value expressed in what we say, how we think, the behaviors we conduct, the actions that we take. They're infused somewhat effortlessly with what we value. How do we know what we value? You are going to need to have some time and some intimate connection with yourself to really know what's real for you, because it might not be real for me. What you need and what I need might be two completely different things. We get that in a family. Like me and my sister, we're so alike. It's uncanny in some ways, but then also we are polar opposites. And what has changed that is obviously, the different pecking order in the family chain. For starters, she's oldest, I'm the youngest. It's a different perspective and a different sense of experience. And our inner tapestry is going to project out something different from person to person, from environment to environment, no matter if we're in that same room, same situation together. So that's going to perceive, or that's going to distort or influence how we see a situation and what's real for us, because we're spiritual beings coming through here on a human journey. And so what we're needing to expand and evolve is going to be different from my soul purpose to my siblings or to yours and to whoever that is. We can have very much alignment of that, but it'll be different. So my values are definitely freedom, family, love, wealth, adventure, growth. There's 6. I could list off a whole bunch, but off the cuff, they're my favorites. I do love flexibility, but I feel like flexibility and freedom kind of come in the same thing. I want to be able to free to make the choices. I want to be flexible with the choices that I make. I want to have my day to have a bit of flexibility, which also means I want my day to have a bit of freedom in what I choose to do. And we know that everything is a choice. So even if we're tied down to a 9 to 5, that's a choice that we've made. And so when we allow ourselves to really own that, like you've chosen that, then you can choose something else should that really be what's exhausting you and what you've just had enough of. So it's getting to know your values and then seeing how much of that and how much of them are being infused in your day. It's being infused in the inner dialogue that you think. Do I think every thought through the lens of freedom, family, love, wealth, adventure? Majority of them, yes. There will be times that I'll come into and I'll interface with these moments of like lack or fear. And so it's just seeing it, having that buffer of awareness of knowing like, all right, cool, I'm interfacing with fear here. It's coming through and I'm seeing it through the lenses of fear and not my values. And you know, it's not always like clear cut like that in the moment. There's reactivity, don't get me wrong, but it's just knowing that that's what's played out and you can bounce yourself back to your center a little bit more quick. But then sometimes, like even when we do know what our values are, we still don't choose to own them completely. And why do we do that? Often growing up is where we have embedded our fears and our perspectives and our coping constructs because we're in survival. We're also very impressionable. And we don't have all the wisdom that we have now, consciously at least. So it's there on a total consciousness level, but in growing and evolving into that knowingness, we often don't have the availability to know how to tune into it. And then simultaneously, we are being influenced by our upbringing. So more often than not, we have experienced, say, a parent and their views being infused on us, our siblings. If we were passionate or, say, expressive of the things that we like, there could be a sibling, there could have been a friend, there could have been someone at school that shut that down and made you feel silly to have that dream or that fantasy or that, you know, that excitement and passion. Or it could have been like, you know, you expressed a part of who you were and it was ridiculed and you felt humiliated. You know, there's people that have been incredible writers. I used to write poems. I used to write my friends' poems all the time. I used to just love the writing with that. And that was something I just did and didn't, you know, I didn't think too much of. But then as I grew older, I became really self-conscious of that. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want everyone to find out that I write poems because you have ingraining in you on this societal subconscious level that you don't want to be different and that could be seen as like really vulnerable. And then people can, you know, use that against me and then you feel this sense of weakness and under threat. So then you withdraw those things that you bring your creativity out in, you're scared to showcase because that could be used against you as threat. So then you draw back. And then so you then conform. You conform into what is the general consensus of your environment. And so you don't allow yourself that freedom of expression. And then year after year, that's the pattern that you keep exploring and ingraining and expanding in of suppressing your expression of or your freedom of expression, whatever that looks like. And so that is when we begin to get further and further away into away from what we're aligned to. And that becomes exhausting because when we are in our natural state of creation, we understand that we're in this innate space of flow. Energy is coming in, you're releasing it in a really harmonious way, and it's just that circulation of energy. And so when you are resisting that natural state of creation, that natural state of alignment, that's going to take a lot more energy to facilitate these coping constructs that you've created. And the coping constructs could be, you know, just like doing everything for everybody else, like taking care of their needs because that's what you were so used to, well, that's what you where it was expected of you, or that's what's expected from society, has made you believe that's what's expected. Females are a great thing. And, it's not just females, because men do it too, but I am speaking to the females where you've picked up subconsciously that, mums do everything for their kids. And I know there's plenty of dads that I know that do everything for their kids. So it's not mums versus dad, but just in that general example, females can be more susceptible to doing everything for everyone, like running the household, making sure everyone else's needs is put before their own. So much so that they have grown so far away from their own needs in knowing what they are. They have zero idea of what their passions are, what's meaningful to them. But they could list off what their son Jack's favorite food and favorite sport is, and what his favorite character from so-and-so is, because they've just ingrain themselves to give everything that they are to everybody else. But yet when you ask them, like, what's their interest? I'll be like, oh, my kids. And look, that's an interest. But if you weren't a mum and you weren't that worker, and if you weren't that, who are you? And what do you like to do? And what would you consider fun? And you're like, maybe when I was a kid, I used to like, okay, so you've grown since then, but you've grown away from who you know to be. So it's reforming those relationships. And, it's very interesting because our environments can have an effect on the way that we behave and the way that we think and the way that we show up for ourselves or don't show up for ourselves. I remember I was a contracts administrator in a previous life. And so I was working in admin and I was looking after these project managers. I was traveling and went back to Perth, and that was the job that I could get during the global financial crisis. There wasn't many jobs going. So I was just like, I'll take that. And look, it was fun. It was close to home. I had sick of commuting and all the things. So it was perfect what I needed at that time. And then I fell pregnant with Shia, and I was speaking to one of my project managers, and he was like a man of few words, really gentle giant with, a deep booming voice, I remember. And who knows, like the thing is, it's like, who knows? His name's Dave. Where is Dave now in my life? Like completely not, I don't even know where he is, or even forget what his last name is. But it's interesting how our environments and peoples and conversations can impact, what's true for us or what's not true for us. These things growing up and what people say, they can impact us, and we withdraw, and then we pull away from the true essence of who we are and expressing that, or having that freedom of expression. But in this regard, it actually ignited and aligned with what I now do, which is interesting. So I was pregnant and I was chatting to Dave, and I think we were walking from the car back to the office, and we were talking about, my pregnancy, and he's just like, you're going to have a natural birth, aren't you, Michelle? And I'm like, and it was very unlike him to even really have these conversations in a sense. And I'm like, I haven't really thought about it completely. And he's just like, because women are meant to do this. And look, I'm not saying like, whether or not someone should influence your choices, and especially giving birth, and everyone's got that right. But in that moment, I really heard it completely. And that hearing that activated something deep in my subconscious. I'm like, it made complete sense to me. It was a resonance to me. And so he had said, like, we're built for this, and, women can do that. And, fast forwarding now, like, this is what I've made a career out of entrusting the body and its limitless potentials and what's available to us. And so when I was, doing my birthing plan and even during labor, for whatever reason, Dave, and to that 4-second pep talk was infused in my mind. It was just like, the nurses would be like, how are you feeling? Do you want any painkillers? And I'm like, we'll just wait. If it gets worse, we'll wait. But if it gets worse, then maybe. And so I wasn't like a heck no or a heck yes. It was just, we'll see. And then before you know it, Shia came, and it was all a natural birth, and it was beautiful. Well, actually, then my placenta got stuck. So I had to get rushed into emergency, and then end up having to have an epidural. So it was kind of, in that moment, that choice for that. And again, like, it was how it was meant to be. So I was so pro, like, whatever needs to happen so my baby comes out in the most safest way and the most healthiest way. So of course I would do anything for that to be the case. But it was just interesting for me that Dave had made that comment, and it had a deep, profound impact, and it ignited something that was resonant with me. And the same can happen in reverse. So when people say things that either mock you or there's a resonance of, so AKA of that fear being true within you, that is an opportunity for us to work through. And so if you are feeling like you're being held back and being stifled with your own expression, there is a great reason why that's there. And that's in service of you to bring that up and to really liberate yourself from the constructs of these fears that are here to protect you in order for you to get to the other side and really embody what it is that you truly, truly deserve. And that is what I love. But when we are, still playing out the scenarios of dad expected this of me, and he was to find out about, this is what I actually want to do for work, then what would he say? All of that is exhausting. That's playing underneath the surface. That is having an impact on how you show up every day. That's having an impact on your future. Like, what would it take for us just to look in that and you to find some sort of resolve and have that rewrite your narrative in your subconscious so you can retrieve that energy that has been exhausting itself from keeping you safe from that fear from actualizing. And it can now just find its formation in alignment, and you can utilize that in the direction that is real for you. That is what I want for everybody. I want everyone to stop exhausting themselves from living out of alignment and trying to keep up with the modern day demands and trying to keep this facade up. Like, if I look like everything is perfect externally, then it's not going to show just how much I'm at a loss within myself, or just am fearful that if I was to release this facade, then everyone's going to see that I'm not as great as I want them to believe. And on some level, if they see that, that's just going to reaffirm of what I actually believe, and that's I'm not as great as what I believe. When we deserve to believe and to embody that we are the greatest and the most sincerest way, we are the most greatest expression of, source, universe, as we know how to be. And for us just to really own that and amplify that and turn that dial all the way up. That's what we deserve. But we're playing out these coping mechanisms and these, masking around in these behaviors in hope that we don't have to call our own BS out. And it's tiring. We are so freaking tired. You are tired. And so how do you get congruent? Firstly, it is looking within. There is no way that you're going to be able to get the life that you want and embody the things that you desire until you work out what has been blocking you this whole time. Is it comfortable? No freaking way is it comfortable. But are you worth it? Yes. And the more you start to exercise this muscle of looking within and letting go, looking within, liberating yourself, it's just going to be so depersonalized. So look at the areas in your life. And people come to see me majority of the time because of their wealth, because of their relationships, because of their career. They're probably the three main reasons, and their relationship with their own body, whether it's their physical body, whether it's their mental body, whether it's their emotional body, their emotional turbulence. We understand it's all intertwined. So what is the most prominent area that's causing you stress? Is it money? Is it finances? Cool. Let's use that most loudest symptom and understand what that is. What are you saying underneath? That's your thoughts are predominantly thinking majority of the day. Is it, there's not enough money, I don't know how to handle my money, I hope it all kind of works out, something always comes up. Whatever your story is, get really clear on what you're saying to yourself. The clarity is the power here. Where you get super, super clear, you can depersonalize, and it goes from being unconscious in your subconscious to being conscious and being like, wow, that's just something that I've been playing out, and it's like controlling my conscious mind without me realizing. And then from there, you can start to really see like, okay, so I'm saying this every day, like, I don't know how to manage my money. I don't know how to manage my money. I don't know how. So your life, your external world is going to mirror that for you in the law of reflection. Is that about an actual law. I'm going to get in the law of correspondence is the better level. Your reality is a mirror of what's happening within. So that is what's being reflected. You're going to get that unless you deal with the story and the narrative that's playing out in your subconscious. So get clear. And whether that's, in your money situation, what are you saying to yourself? What are you saying to yourself in your relationship? Like, he's not going to get it. He's not going to understand. I don't feel heard. I don't feel like they're listening. What part of you are you not listening to? Because even the language that you're using in relation to other people or your external is on some level the language that you are needing to say to yourself, and a part of you is saying to yourself. So I'm going to say that again. You need to hear it, and there's a part of you that's saying it to you. So where are you not listening to yourself? Where are you not? And it's probably like your soul's desire. You've been so busy with filling everybody's cup and being this image of perfection and having all the material things, but yet your soul's just like, hey, we could get so much more fulfillment if you just allowed yourself to embody what you deeply desire and what you deeply deserve. And I hear so many people saying, I don't know what my passions are. I don't know what's meaning for me. You haven't given yourself the proper time and the proper openness to allow yourself to be that. Or you've already shut it down with logic. You're like, but I can't do that. I've got to make a living. And totally. I get that too. We're still trying to navigate this, 3D world in this greater scheme. But it's all about just understanding, again, how can you start to infuse little bits by little bits in your everyday? So what are you saying about your career? I'm unfulfilled. I don't know what I want to do. What are you saying about your body? I feel like my body's letting me down, like freaking knees, and like I feel like I've just got weight around my stomach, or whatever it is. What are you condemning? And just really start to hear the language that you're using. And then from there, once you get it really clear, start to be aware of what the things, if you had all the time in the world, if you had all the resources, if you had everything taken care of, what would you be doing all day? Where do you lose time? Like, what do you embark on that you lose track of time? For me, it's personal development. I love understanding our own minds, our own psyche, human behavior, human consciousness, total consciousness, the expansion of consciousness. That lights me up. Do I feel like that's a conversation that everyone's going to be enthralled with? No. Do I understand that every group of friends that I hang around, are they on board with that? No. Did that used to create like a sense of withdrawal for me, because I'm like, well, if no one really gets that, so I'm going to withdraw? Totally. But it's like, that's true for me. It doesn't mean I need to broadcast it in every group. Like, hey, this is what I stand for in every single group. Get on board or we can't hang out. It's just like, it's true for me. I embody that knowingness. I embody that's what's real for me. And when you're okay and you feel really content with that, you can be in a conversation that has nothing to do with that in the presence of someone, because you still know who you are. You still know what you value. You still know what lights you up. And then you seek those places and you seek that solidarity, and you do that for yourself and you embark on those things. The same with travel. To be fair, I don't do enough of it yet or anymore. And that's something I'm going to really focus on. I got a couple of little trips here and there coming up soon, but how can I incorporate travel in my day? Like, I will go and travel to a different coffee shop to work out of. I will go travel to a different beach to go explore. I will go travel and be in different situations to get that sense of newness, because in that sense of newness, you learn about yourself again. It's like that travel, when you immerse yourself in different cultures, you get to see the different connections, and you get to see the different values, and you can see how would that fit with you? Do we agree with, align with that? Or it's full acceptance, but it's just like interesting. So you're learning more about you. And then again, connection. I love connecting with others. I love connecting with myself. I love connecting with nature, because we understand that we are all interconnected. We are all oneness. We are all one thing. And it's really like in just getting some consciousness around the connections and how the ones that we choose can really expand. So it's getting clear on what you're saying to yourself every day, depersonalizing that, writing it down, and just understanding that that's a distortion of the higher truth. That is something that's embedded and has an inception point in your subconscious. And because that's in you and your subconscious, you have the power to change that by looking within and bringing what's unconscious, conscious, and rewriting the narrative. And then from there, infusing what you value into your everyday. Personal development, travel, connection, AKA my values, freedom, love, wealth, adventure, growth, family, all the things. How can you just infuse parts of that in your everyday? So that's what it's all about, my friends. That is what I'm super, super passionate about. So I hope you've taken something from this episode. I would love to know, what tools that you're like, all right, cool, I can do that. Get really congruent with what you're saying to yourself. Like get yourself into categories of, like wealth, relationships, career, my body. That's generally, but there could be other areas for you. So don't feel, pigeonholed into just those categories. Know that everyone's got their own sets, but get really clear of what you're saying to yourself and start to write it out. Give yourself 5 minutes of uninterrupted writing. Just let it spray the page. And then once you've seen it, you can start to bring conscious awareness of it. And by doing that, it changes the quality of it being so unconscious to now being, all right, I understand that this is just something that I'm saying. And now, universe, I want to rewrite that. Like make that statement, make that claim. And now start to infuse like the things that you value in your everyday. It doesn't have to be massive. It's just small little steps of how you can infuse what you do. And then from there, you're going to be living in more alignment. You're not going to be exhausting yourself from firstly not knowing who you are, that disconnect sensation. You're going to be choosing things that are feeling more expanding for you and less, out of unnecessary obligation. Like, my mentor speaks about obligation and that's in an alignment for him. Like he's talking about obligation and alignment. But when you're doing it from a space of lack, it's just you're disconnecting from yourself and giving everything to everyone else because you feel not worthy to have that for you, and you're seeking external validation to do that. And then lastly, like when you have that bandwidth, you're going to be able to have more energy for the day-to-days, and then more space for clarity to drop in, and then more openness to be like, okay, well, whilst I've got this job or, this is my financial situation, what can I do just to add on more and just add a little more on, or do something that's a little bit more in alignment? So I would love to hear what you've taken from this episode. If you're feeling like, there's stuff that's coming up and I probably need some help with that, jump on board my $111 initial consult and session, because what that will do is we're going to start to really dive in deep quickly and start to bring conscious awareness as to what stories you're playing out. This is how you empower yourselves, by bringing what's unknown to the known and start creating something different. So thank you for your time. I loved just nutting this out with you, and I hope that you know that exhaustion, we can always change. There's always that power to do so, and you deserve to live in alignment with what's real for you. That's what this is about. So until next week, take care of you, share this around, and any, takeaways, please DM me. I would love to hear from you. I will see you next week. Mwah.
Audience exclusive.